I call to order the December 5th, 2019 Board of Commissioners regular session. Madam Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Commissioner Kathy Suzetti?
Here.
Commissioner Michelle Hatcher?
Present.
Commissioner James Smith?
Present.
Commissioner Steve Frisbee?
Present.
Commissioner Derek King?
Present.
Commissioner Tommy Miller?
Present.
Commissioner Gary Thompson?
Present.
We have quorum.
All right, we'll have a moment of silence, and following that, Commissioner Miller will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Need approval of agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the December 5, 2019 Board of Commissioners regular session agenda as presented?
So moved.
Support.
Have a motion support. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the Board of Commissioners November 21st, 2019 regular session as presented?
So moved.
Support.
Have a motion support. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Citizens' time. The next item on the agenda is citizens' time. During citizens' time, the board chair shall recognize any person wishing to address the board. A person recognized by the chair shall approach the podium and state his or her name and community of residence. A person may address the board only once on the same matter during each period set aside for citizens' time on the agenda, and only matters that are relevant to county government. The chair shall control the length that of each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes, and shall not allow any negative personal comments. Is there anyone that would like to address their commissioners? Anyone? Anyone? All right, we'll move along. Special order of business. I believe we have any tonight.
Nope.
We do have a consent agenda with several items that are resolutions passed by other counties. Oh, I did not. We'll go back and do the elected and appointed county officials' time. Dang it.
We didn't want to hear from them anyway. Oh, hi, Sheriff.
Stressed up. He must.
And I had to borrow a quarter from the prosecutor tonight to be able to speak, but
Wow, that's
And
good.
he had one, too.
Apparently your budget wasn't as tight as you thought.
as
Oh, that was so
Just
good.
I had to get that in, Dave. Just try it. Thank you.
it's my quarter.
Yeah, it's true.
I just wanted to, as you all realize, tonight on the agenda is the 2020 budget, and as one of those department leaders that worked with the budget committee to get the county's overall budget where it's at, and the Office of the Sheriff, I want to thank the budget committee for working well on behalf of the Sheriff's Office. We thank you for the effort you put in to get the budget where it is. Thankfully, about 25 hours ago, Lansing's finally decided to get their budget moving forward and protecting the citizens of the state of Michigan and doing their job. So hopefully next week that'll be off to the governor's office to sign, and the county's funding will be restored. Specifically about $600,000 that would affect my budget. So I feel more comfortable tonight asking you to approve the county budget on behalf of the Sheriff's Office. But again, thank you to Administrator Scott and the administrative team and the budget team to work together to get a budget. At the end of the day, you've heard me say it before, and the folks at home, we'll never be able to pay the men and women in uniform what they deserve and what we should pay them, because there's not enough money in the world to do that. But I'm thankful every day for the men and women at the Sheriff's Office that put that uniform on and serve us here in Calhoun County. So thank you, and I wish...
Got a question or a comment I'd want you to make. You've been putting those quarters up there for a reason, and we picked on you all year about it. But there's a specific thing that we're going to support you with. remind us what it is, because we're all going to help you out at our next meeting.
So I believe we started this year that we were going to help fund our employee recognition night and our banquet that we have
Yeah.
each year in May. So
Yep.
I
So
put my little part in there, but
at our next meeting, I'm going to challenge all of us sitting here to make some type of donation towards that effort, because I think that's a really good thing that they do in the Sheriff's Department to honor their folks, and we appreciate his efforts in helping do that. So whatever we can to help with that, let's do that. All right?
thank
Yeah,
you.
and it's a wonderful event also.
Yes.
Last year, Gary and Jake and I went, and it's not just your officers. And I don't know if you want to talk about it a little bit more.
Well, we recognize our officers for the good things they do throughout the year, but also if there's other agencies that were involved with the incidents, those are recognized. I believe we gave over 140 some awards and honors last year. But
And there were a couple of citizens that
Citizen
were
awards.
involved. It was really a wonderful evening. It really was.
Yep. Cool. Thanks, Chair.
Use tax dollars.
Absolutely. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. David, anything? No, thank you. All right. Brian? All right. We'll move along. Consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Support.
I have a motion support to approve the consent agenda of the December 5, 2019 Board of Commissioners regular session as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Special committee workshop board reports. Anyone? Wow. We'll move along. Unfinished business, we have none. We'll move on to new business in the county administrator's report. I'll turn it over to County Administrator Controller Kelly Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will report out on a couple of boards and committees. The Planning Commission met on November 25 and recommended some planning and zoning items, and really that was it. The Parks and Rec Commission met earlier this evening and recommended for approval of this board their updated Parks and Rec Master Plan 2020 to 2024. So that'll be coming to the board in January. There's still a little bit of time left for public input, so there might be minor changes. Commissioner Frisbee chairs that. They also approved the 2020 meeting schedule and voted on the Parks millage that you authorized for next year. They voted on to make the date the August 4 primary of next year, based on election costs and just what makes the most sense. So then one more update, just that earlier this week, the Community Development Office with our Corporation Counsel's assistance finally closed on the sale of the grant-funded property in Albion, the 65-acre piece of property that will be used for a trailhead. So that was months and months and probably years in the works, so finally got that done earlier this week. I think that's it for my report tonight. So we'll move on to new business, and we have a short agenda, just 4 items. The first one, item 12B1, comes from the Sheriff's Office. That starts on page 34 of our packets, and this is a request for you to approve a grant under our grants policy, and this comes from the state. It's the 2020 Medical Marijuana Operation and Oversight Grant. So Sheriff, I would think, might want to comment on it. I'll mention the financial piece that's noted in here. The grant is a fixed amount based on the number of medical marijuana card holders in the county, $29,100, and it helps to partially fund one of the sheriff's deputies to do education and communication and outreach. So.
And I only had 1 quarter tonight, so I forgot that this was on the agenda.
It's all right.
So I'll have to put 2 in next week. It's the same medical marijuana grant that we brought before you the last 2 years. It is less money again this year. It's based upon the number of medical marijuana licenses in each county, and that changes on an annual basis. So it does help fund our education deputy who has been out. He's made a couple pamphlets this last year on medical marijuana education, and he gets to all the schools throughout the Out County as well. So
Right. Can I have a motion to accept the 2020 medical marijuana operation and oversight grant as presented and authorize the administrator controller to sign all documents necessary to implement the grant?
So move. Support?
Have a motion support. Is there any discussion? All those, roll call vote, actually.
Commissioner King?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Tompkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Betty?
Yes.
Commissioner Hatcher?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Frisbee?
Yes.
7 yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 12B2 starts on page 39. This was entered by Appropriation Counsel Jim Dyer on behalf of the Land Bank Authority and the Treasurer's Office. Treasurer Wensauer is here, and also Krista Trout-Edwards from the Land Bank. And the request is to authorize, appropriate up to $500,000 from the Land Reutilization Fund, which is within the delinquent tax revolving funds, to the Land Bank Authority to complete several projects, which I know Krista will highlight for us. And this just authorizes the treasurer and the land bank to work together with the county to really prioritize and finalize those and make some really big improvements. It helps to leverage, I think the total is $1.3 million worth of projects using only $500,000 from this fund. So I think very cool, very creative way to use the revenues.
Hello, everyone. I'm Krista Trout-Edwards with the Land Bank Authority, and as Kelly said, Brian is also here this evening. We did do a quick PowerPoint just to kind of go through things. I just think it helps visualize what we're talking about because we live this and breathe this, but I don't want to start in the middle of the conversation with you guys. So we did do a similar request back in 2018 for about 20 blight elimination projects throughout the county, so this is in the same vein. We are asking for some other uses with this money, in part because we've done a lot of demolition and we think we need to start stabilizing some structures and addressing some environmental concerns that we have. And if we do that, we can get those buildings rehabilitated and back on the tax roll. So you'll see that's a little bit different in this request from the 2018 request. So I just need to tell you, there's a remote control. Okay. There we go. All right. Yay, technology. So these are the challenges here on the side is what we're really going to be addressing. We have some industrial properties, multiple industrial properties. There's a big one in this request. Some commercial properties, residential blight. We are at the end of our $4 million grant. We're actually trying very, very hard to get it all paid out before the end of the year. We're almost there. We just have a couple of projects left, so that's great. We've got some residential rehab, some environmental issues that we've discovered with our EPA funds, and then we've got some infill housing listed on here as well. The first project is the Union Steel Building that's in Albion. Anybody from Albion? This is a notorious structure. It has been in and out of foreclosure since 2008. It's actually gone through 3 times. We spent a lot of time this summer and this fall working with the city of Albion. We felt that it was really important that they put some financial resources into the project. We've done a lot of other big projects in the city of Albion and could continue all day long to do big projects in the city of Albion. With this demolition, we'd approached Eagle, we'd approached EPA, and we couldn't get any partnership funding. And so we went to the city after we got some bids. We got a great bid from a reputable contractor, and we really wanted to preserve that bid. So with Jim's help, Jim Dyer's help, we went to the city council, and they agreed to put in $300,000 to this project. They, of course, can't pay it all at once, so they asked if they could do incremental. They're going to do $100,000 in 2020, and then $50,000 for the next 4 years to make up the $300,000. So part of this request is so that we can pay for the demolition next year, because obviously a contractor's not going to wait 5 years for payment, but that money would come in, and then we can use that money in other projects. One of our arguments with the city council was that if we put this money here, then there's many other projects across the county that we wouldn't be able to address, and it's not fair to some of the other projects that are out there. So they did agree, and so part of that request is to complete this process with the capital stack here tonight. We have $51,000 already committed from the 2018 appropriation. We've used about $17,000 in EPA money. That was critical to the site. It was a foundry. We wanted to make sure when we did the demolition that we were treating the site properly and that the folks doing the demolition were protected. So we have all that information now and we're ready to go. We did put a contingency in here just in case something unforeseen comes to light once we get there. So this is the timeline of the site. I think it's really important to note that I've been working on it since I started working for the county in 2011 in some way or another. It came through foreclosure in 2008, 2011. In 2012, when it was in private ownership, there was an EPA action on the site. There was a structural collapse. And then in 2014, it came back through foreclosure, and we brought it into the land bank because we knew the market wasn't working and the site was just going to continue to deteriorate. And we've been trying to find the funding since then. There have been other priorities as there have been other structures that have come in and suffered collapses and were a risk, but this one is now in a state where it does present a significant risk. Here's the site in the city of Albion. So this is kind of cut off, but it's circled in red. The yellow line at the bottom is the Michigan Ave corridor. So there's the Big B, there's Collaboration Corner, there's the new Oaklawn Express Care Facility. All of this is visible from those sites. So it's something that people see every day, and it's very close to Washington Gardner School and to the President's House for Albion College. Here's some photos. It's just sort of the progression of the collapse of there's two sections of the roof that have collapsed, and then the last photo is looking out of one of those holes. You can see the Munger Place with the Oaklawn Express Care and other facilities there. Our second big project that really makes up a big part of this request is 131 North Superior Street. That's also in Albion. I have also been working on this one for quite a long time. This building was divided, it says 1/5, but it's really 1/4. My computer died last night in the middle of his presentation, so some adjustments, I apologize, the blue screen of death. But anyways, it's broken up into 4, so we were kind of waiting for all the pieces of this building to come through foreclosure. That eventually happened. We put it out in an RFQ. We got a developer. We spent a lot of time working with that developer, but the deal fell through. While we were working with them, we used our EPA funds to do some research on it and do some environmental assessments. What we found out, this whole building, there's the old tattoo place in downtown Albion, and that's what this is. There's an office space, and there's Dickerson's, and then there's the upstairs. So Dickerson's isn't part of our building, but the other 4 little pieces are. This particular one, in our EPA assessment, we found that it had tetrachloroethylene in the basement, which is a dry cleaning chemical, so you have to remove it or remediate it in some way. It's a dirt basement. We can dig it out. Our quote is $55,000 to do that. We're currently working with an engineer so that we can figure out how to stabilize the foundation walls. It's in the middle of a block, though, so demoing it isn't really an option unless we want to have a hole in the middle of the block. So it's been a tough case, and we've been kind of using it as, okay, it didn't work when we put it out for RFQ. What are the other hurdles? What resources do we have? We've been putting some money into it ourselves, and we feel we need to get the chemical out of the basement in order to have any chance of rehabbing it. So it's the red circle. You've got Dickerson's right next to it. You've got Lopez's, a building one away. And then you've got a rehabbed building adjacent on the other side. And on the bottom there is the Ludington Center and City Hall. So it's where some investment is happening. But it is at a tricky end of downtown, for us anyway, because we own the other adjacent building, which is the barbecue joint on the other side of Dickerson's. And that one suffered a collapse. So we're really looking at, can we do a brownfield plan here, and would that bring in additional resources? But, first we got to figure this one out. And we do have a meeting coming up regarding doing a brownfield plan here, which we would fund, the land bank would fund, and we possibly have some EPA money left over. But we need to address it before it goes too much farther. The next set of properties are residential blight. As I mentioned before, we're at the end of our grant. I've been talking to the state about whether or not there would be any additional money. Right now they're saying it doesn't look like it. So these are the ones that came over from the treasurer that we feel are the highest priority for demolition. They're nuisance properties or they're structurally unsafe, and they've caused a lot of issues for the treasurer and for the neighborhood. So we picked them on purpose. We feel that if we can get these down, we can deal with the other ones. We can find the funding for the other ones. The first one is 80 South Ave, and that's that monster on my left side of the screen here. It has been in the treasurer's ownership. Now it's in the land bank ownership, and it has been broken into several times. They've had to board it from the inside and the outside, and so we know it's going to be an ongoing problem. We want to go ahead and take it down. We've done some due diligence already. We know the stucco is not asbestos containing, which is great, so we know we can get it down affordably, and so we want to go ahead and do that, and we're going to partner with the treasurer on that one if this funding is approved. The next property is 288 Cherry, and you can't see on the bottom I had another photo, and it just shows that the wall of the foundation is collapsing, so you can see into the basement. So that's obviously a dangerous situation. We've got, I think it's 193 93 in road on the left there, and that had a roof failure at one time, and so it's unsafe to walk inside. And then we've got one on Capitol Ave, which is on a corridor and is in really bad shape, so we want to take that down just to preserve that corridor. There we go. And then this is on Cliff. It had a fire, so it's another corridor property that we want to go ahead and take down. Because we have so many properties, we can only save some of them, and it doesn't make sense to put money into these when there are some other ones that make better sense for rehab. Okay, it's kind of driving me crazy that I can't see all the addresses, so hold on a second. So these are our residential rehabs. And what we're asking for in the residential rehab area is really just a little bit of money to make some interventions to save the structures. So we've got 4 on here. There's 707 Prospect, which is in Albion. It's in dire need of a roof. The rest of the rehab we think we can absolutely manage with our own funding. We've got 111 Elm, also in Albion. It needs a roof. We're going to have the building inspectors walk through both of these buildings to make sure that we didn't miss anything on our initial inspection of them and that these are good investments. But so far, we've got 194 Wood, which is in Battle Creek. We own a couple of other houses there. We've got a purchase agreement on one, but we own the adjacent one too. So for us, it makes sense. 3 blighted houses, 1 block, 1 purchase agreement in place. Let's address the other 2 structures on that block and change that story for that area. Now, the last one on here is 68 and 70 Freylenheisen. It's an outrageous number. I already see Commissioner Frisbee looking at me. Look, got an eyeball right there. It's on here for a reason, and that is that this duplex is a historic duplex. It's in a historic district, which means we can't just tear it down. We originally went after this through our Transform This Home program because we've had some successes finding private folks who wanted to rehab structures, and we worked with a private individual for quite a while until it became apparent that it was too big of a project for them. So our next step was to apply for a grant through the city of Battle Creek. It's $80,000. We can have that money, anytime, it seems, if we can make the rest of the budget work. So we did our own, for that grant, we did our own rehab spec. Then we put it out for bid because we wanted to see if we were on point with our rehab spec. And it came back a little bit more, but not outrageously more. So in our pro forma for this property, we need about $70,000 or $60,000 to put in it to make the numbers work. And so the thing that we've been asking ourselves internally, and we've been talking to Brian about, and everybody else, is does it make sense? Is this a good investment? Because it's a very big number. And I would say that this up here says to make the project work or to help with demolition, because that's really where we are. What it breaks down to is that without a contingency, this rehab costs $93 a square foot. With a contingency, something goes wrong in the rehab, it costs $102 per square foot. We cannot build a new house for $150 a square foot. So that's really where we're sort of struggling. And so it's on here, we're still in the due diligence. We all feel, when I say both, I mean Treasurer Wensauer and myself feel we have to have some sort of foundation money in this to make it work. Otherwise, we don't feel like we can do it. But that square footage number is something that we've been playing with a lot, and on our, with our board too, is just that it's very difficult to rebuild these types of structures. And so we've done a lot around historic preservation, and I had an op-ed recently where we talked about this one still maybe going either way. So we included it on here because we think it's important. When properties come to us and they've been gone too long, they haven't had any attention for too long, it makes it difficult to save them. And we've done a lot of demolitions, and we are aware of our historic properties. They are an asset to our communities, and that's what makes these decisions hard sometimes. So I just wanted to use it as a discussion point. So these are the houses for rehab. We've got 707 Prospect and then the one on Elm, both in Albion. We've done a lot of demolition in the Elm Street area in Albion, so we'd really like to save that if we could. And this is 194 Wood Street, and then the 6870 Freylenheisen. One of the other reasons we really need to make a decision about Freylenheisen is that it is near a daycare center and a church, and so we either have to we have to get permission from the Historic District Commission to tear it down, or we have to, figure out if we can find money for the gap.
That one right there is the 300 and some thousand dollars.
Yeah. So what it is it's a duplex. It's about 2,000 square feet on each side. The properties that Mishta's funding right now for infill housing, they're about 1,600 square feet, and they're costing $170,000. So that's $350 if you're going to build two of them. So it's a tough decision, and I'm not saying it makes sense one way or the other. It's just that if we tear it down, we can't rebuild it. In that it's a 3-bedroom duplex on each side with a full basement. So it would be very expensive to rebuild.
Where are the ones you're talking about?
So Mishta is doing a Mishta mod program right now. They're modular houses. They're about 1,600 square feet, and they think they can build them for about $170,000. So we've just been in discussions with them. Both Albion and Battle Creek would, what's the word I'm looking for? They could do those houses because of the income disparity. So they would qualify for that. So we've been talking to them, and we're on their list. It's just that if we built a new home for $170,000, we don't know if we could sell it for that. Most communities are still concerned that there's a gap. So it's this ongoing conversation that we've been having in all of our communities. Albion has a very active, several groups that are active in the housing discussion. Battle Creek has some groups that are active in the housing discussion. And we're also members of the Home Builders Association, and so they're doing some work in Kalamazoo that we've got our eye on, because they're really trying to streamline the units that they're building and get the cost down. But nobody can break that $150 a square foot, at least not yet.
Okay. And it's only going up, building cost right now, so.
Yeah, well, we're hoping we can make it go the other way, just because so many folks are working on it, but yeah, it hasn't happened.
Wages are going up, so costs are
Yeah,
Yeah, it's gonna.
I know.
And I just want to make a point about the financial piece, and Jim Dyer mentioned that in his memo, that the $500,000 that's in the land reutilization fund is restricted. So it's income that comes into the treasurer's office from their activity, and we couldn't transfer it to the general fund just to supplement operations and pay the deputies more, for example. So it really does need to be used for this purpose, and I just wanted to make that clear.
Okay. Well, let's get a motion, and then I think we might have some questions for you.
Okay.
Can I have a motion to authorize the county treasurer to set up a reserve account with the delinquent tax revolving funds designated for the Calhoun County Land Bank Authority, and to appropriate up to $500,000 from the Land Reutilization Fund to the Calhoun County Land Bank Authority to complete the projects and activities presented in Exhibit A?
So moved. Support.
I have a motion support. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Commissioner Hatcher.
Yes, I was just wanted to ask a question, and thank you so much. That's very detailed. What happens, how long has the property, the duplex on Freeland Heights, and how long has it been vacant? Do you know?
It's been in the land bank for about 2 years. I think it's probably been vacant for maybe 5. There was a private owner who was trying to do something with it before it came into foreclosure. Mostly he was trying to sell it before it got foreclosed upon.
Right.
So the front porch is very distressed on that property, and it has been for a little while.
And what normally will happen, or what does happen to structures that you do? What happens to the land, or what happens to structures that you do, or that we do typically have to take down? I guess because they've, reached, a point where to repair them outstands, exceeds what it would take to rebuild them, as you were saying with this one. So what usually does happen with the land?
So we sell them as side lots to adjacent property owners. That's $200. We have folks who lease them and do beautification projects on them. Sometimes we put them in our neighborhood mow and maintenance programs, and we have groups that maintain them for us. We do target some strategic holdings of land where we think there could be redevelopment, and this one, the church might be interested because it is adjacent and they do have quite a campus there. We also own the vacant lot on the other side, though, so there's some potential for development in that area. It's very close to downtown. It's very close to the transit line. If we were to rehab it and we took the money from the city of Battle Creek, one side could be market rate and one side would be affordable, and that's kind of attractive because we do have a shortage of affordable housing in the city, and it would be in a very good walkable location. People could access things. So.
Is there a potential, is there a potential for a buyer, or is it, I guess, before investing, do we know if there is a potential buyer? What's going to outweigh the cost of the rehab versus the demo?
Yeah, so we've had multiple people look at it. It's just been too big of a project for them. So if we could address some of the needs in that. If we took the grant, though, we would probably hold it for at least a little while so we could get a return on our investment and put the capital in and wait for it to mature. One of the other houses, there's been, not on this part of Frelinghuysen, but on the other side of Fremont Street, there were 3 rehabs through the NSP2 program. 37 Chestnut was the one that caught a lot of attention because it was a very expensive and ornate house. I just heard the city mention the other day, we sold it for $119 in 2013. It recently sold, like October of this year, for $167,500. So that shows that if you do save these houses, there can be an improvement, but it took some time for that return on investment to show up. And that was one where we had a grant, so it cost more than we sold it for originally. We had neighborhood stabilization money in that. That's why that's why we think that this is an important topic that we should be discussing and we should be thinking about, because there is some data that shows saving these structures can work, but you have to make sure that you figured out everything, and we know we need some foundation money in it to make it work.
Commissioner King.
Thank you. I agree. It's the work the land bank does is great, and quite honestly, it's a little bit of a learning curve to learn it and learn what they do and how to get your head wrapped around it. I noticed tonight that almost all the work is in the city of Battle Creek and the city of Albion. A couple years ago with Dalrymple School, that was a several $100,000 project. This one's a several $100,000 project. It seems like a lot of. It seems like a. I don't know how to say this other than is there other areas that can get attention too?
I actually had a couple more sites that I didn't get to, but there were some commercial sites. So one of them is the gas station in Bedford. We've actually had several transform this homes in Emmett Township in the Brownlee Park area. So that's been a place that we've done a lot of work, but we haven't had to demo as much as we have a buyer there, a gentleman who likes to rehab those houses. He grew up in that area, and he does about one a year when they come through. So he does that through our Transform This Home program. The vast majority of our properties are located in the cities of Battle Creek and Albion, and unfortunately, many of our really difficult properties are in Albion. We have Harvard Industries. We have now Albion Manor. We have a little hotel in Sheridan Township just outside of the city of Albion. In Battle Creek, we also have United Wire and Steel, which is down on Fonda. So there are some really tricky, hard properties, and a lot of what determines where we put our money first are the ones that are at risk, to public, that present a public risk. So Dalrymple was collapsing, and it presented a public risk. State Farm is one in Marshall that we had a lot of funding into, that we tore down, and that we're going to be putting out for an RFQ for a developer there. So in the townships, we either get residential or vacant, mostly, with the exception of this gas station in Bedford, which we have on the list in part because it has a very large lien on it from Eagle, formerly DEQ, and we cannot get it to move. So we're thinking if we maybe address it with some legal work on that to get Eagle to release that lien. It's $1 million lien. We can't sell a property with $1 million lien on it. It was not when we owned it, clearly, not when it was in foreclosure with the treasurer either, but there was an 8,000-gallon gas leak, basically, and it was a huge cleanup.
That's one in Bedford.
Yeah, that's the 3-3.
Out on West Michigan.
Yes.
Which one?
Yeah, by the new, I think it's a dollar store out there and the little restaurant.
Oh, that doesn't narrow it down.
What was that?
The dollar store is so good. The new dollar store?
It's the $1 million
Is that out by Custer Drive?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on the corner.
Yeah. That's great.
But yeah, the vast majority are in the cities.
Commissioner Miller.
Yeah, I really appreciate your presentation. You did a really good job. I got a big, it's a Union Steel in Albion. Now, something that big, do we have like several different bids for each project? Do we
Absolutely.
We do?
Yep.
Is there any way we could see some of those bids and something like that?
I can tell you they range from the low bid of $420,750 to a high bid of $900,000. And yes, I can share that with you if you're interested. All of the bids were good. We do like a blind bid process, so you have to get enough points in the first half for us to open your bid pricing. And I do believe we sent a couple back because they didn't get enough points. But the bids that we did open were all from folks we worked with before, and the bid that we're choosing, would like to choose, is from a contractor that's done some other big demolitions for us.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Tompkins.
Thank you, Chair. Just first of all, I want to take the opportunity to thank you for all your hard work, certainly over the past several years. on many of the properties that were certainly been mentioned and those that are going to be addressed. Certainly appreciate that. And I think it's important also too is that focus on rehabbing some of those that you may feel that are savable or of historic value, because that is important too as well. So just want to take the opportunity to thank you for all your work. Thank you very much.
I do have one comment. So we tear down all these places, we have vacant land. How quickly does that go on the market, and what's our history with that?
We've actually seen vacant land become more desirable this year. We've sold a lot more vacant land. One of the things we're trying to figure out how to do, and we've been working on this year, is we have some development sites that we think are important. So how do we market those and package those out there? And what are we asking for from people in return? Because we don't just want to sell vacant land to somebody who's not going to perform and then have it come back to Brian in 3 years. So we've done a couple of options on property recently. So folks have 6 months, 3 months to do some due diligence, and so they're paying for that option for us to take it off the market. And then if their project comes to fruition, we sell it. So we're asking for things like making sure that they have zoning approval, making sure that they have their funding in place, and things like that. So that's what we've been doing. Done a lot of work around infill housing, which many land banks have done. There's an affordable housing shortage. There's a middle, it's called the missing middle housing shortage as well throughout Michigan. And we have land. So how do we position that? Because if we can build on that property, we're increasing the tax base in our community, and we're also increasing the assets in our community.
So just so everybody understands, because I'm not sure everybody understands the land bank, but those properties aren't paying any taxes, obviously, right? So our goal should always be to get them back to the tax rolls. That's the ultimate goal, get them functional, paying taxes, and supporting the entities that they were built within, and infrastructure was built to support them. So as quick as we can get those turned around and back on the tax rolls, I think everybody benefits. So I think it's a good program, and really looking forward to seeing what happens as we tear those down and see other development come along.
Yeah, we have a lot of side lot applications right now that are in our office that we can't process because we have the $4 million grant. So MSHDA has a lien on them, and we have to go through a process. So that's going to really pick up after the first of the year when we finish getting everything paid out through MSHDA. So,
okay. Any other discussion? All right. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Tompkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Betty?
Yes.
Commissioner Hatcher?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Frisbee?
Yes.
Commissioner King?
Yes.
7 yes.
Motion carries.
thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Item 12B3 starts on page 45. This is a purchasing bid award. It's RFB number 113-19. This was a competitive bid to supply uniforms for the sheriff's office. And we had 4 bids through the purchasing office. And there was a group of representatives from the sheriff's office and also purchasing that evaluated those bids. And they are recommending a company called Gulls, which the sheriff's office has purchased various things from before. They're out of Lexington, Kentucky, recommending a 3-year contract. And as noted, it's not a fixed amount. It's an estimated budgeted amount of about $30,000 a year that the sheriff's office spends on uniforms for their road patrol, corrections officers, and control room office personnel, control room operator. The company Gulls was not the lowest bidder. They were very close, but they were deemed the most responsible bidder. And some of the notes that you'll see in the memo include the online ordering system and delivery efficiencies, the ability to do reporting, and the sheriff's office is really asking that those efficiencies make up for the very small difference. And it's hard to, if you look at the bid tab, it is hard to determine the apparent low bidder because we asked for line item pricing, so it depends on how many of each line item gets purchased throughout the year. So county administration and also the representatives from the sheriff's office are recommending that we award the 3-year bid to Gulls.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the 3-year contract with Gulls LLC to provide uniforms to the Sheriff's Department, uniform personnel, and authorize the board chair to sign the contract on behalf of the county?
So moved.
Support.
I have a motion support. Is there any discussion? Please take the roll.
Commissioner Tompkins? Yes. Commissioner Betty?
Yes.
Commissioner Hatcher?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Frisbee?
Yes.
Commissioner King?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, last item for new business tonight is the approval of the 2020 budget and the appropriations resolution. So we did prepare, as we normally do, the second budget book that includes various items that you haven't seen yet. So I'm going to focus on those. Again, thanks to Megan Banning and our finance staff and all of the committees and elected officials. This was actually a pretty smooth process this year, even though we had started with a deficit that we needed to fill. And also, as the sheriff mentioned, we're very thankful that even though we built in contingencies that could have gotten us through one more year without the line item vetoes that the governor approved, it looks like now that those will be restored, and all of the items that we were sort of hedging against should be included in the budget. So just very high level, there's a memo in here, but the total budget for the general fund is about $46.5 million. It's an increase of a little over 2.5% from last year. It does result in about $100,000 contribution to the fund balance, which would put the fund balance at a little over $5 million, 11% of our operating budget. The staffing here is pretty close to the same, about 670 FTEs. The pluses and minuses add up to close to one more position than we had last year, which will be covered by revenue sources. A couple of other highlights I just want to mention that our fringe benefit rate is about 38% of salaries, and that's actually decreased from the previous year. So we are really, I think, proud of HR and proud of the strategies that the board has supported to try to control our benefits costs and still give our employees some really good health benefits. Our pension plans went from 64% funded to 79% funded, mainly due to us closing a couple of the defined benefit plans and bonding for those unfunded liabilities. And overall, our fringe benefit rates, we were projecting about a 10% increase, and we ended up with about a 7% due to some of those strategies and just the rates this year in the market. So very happy that that came through. Some of the big increases that we've highlighted, really just a couple. The child care fund, through the State Department of HHS, are asking for about double for institutional child care. And so that's really not anything that we can control. We have to budget for what they're estimating, and whatever the actual costs are, the county has to cover it. So that was about a $500,000 impact. Obviously, next year is a big election year, so there's $120,000 included just for printing alone for that. And then we are including a decrease in utilities, mostly based on the improvements that we've made through our Honeywell contract. So we can actually see that in next year's budget that utility costs are down. There are all the other budgetary funds included. I won't touch on them. I will highlight the road department budget that's also included in here. It's about a $41 million budget that is going to result in close to 1 million, sorry, not 100, 1 million in unrestricted fund balance. They don't have an official fund balance policy, but the reason that the budget is so large is mainly the Emmett Township Local Road Improvement Project. There's about 12 million included in bond proceeds that we haven't yet authorized, but it's expected, and then another close to 6 million from the township that would come in as revenues. Besides that, it's relatively status quo budget, other than we are expecting a 12% increase in MTF funding from the state. There is a decrease expected in pothole patching and a continued investment in equipment in the road department. So the resolution is one of the most important things I want to highlight. That's on page 156. That's where the board is approving budgetary controls for managing this budget throughout the year. It limits the amount of transfers that can happen without your approval. It limits adding new positions or increasing salaries without your approval. And it requires all of our countywide leadership to report variances in their budgets, so that we don't have a surprise that we're not able to deal with. And then it also sets the salaries for the non-union employees, elected officials, and the Board of Commissioners. As we've reported in the past, we are recommending a 2.5%, and that's consistent with what's built into most of our union contracts that have already been settled. And then in addition to that, there are some adjustments to the elected officials and Board of Commissioners based on the wage study that we did a few years ago, and we phased in those increases so that this would be the final phase of that. Then finally, there is in this budget book the user fees for all of our departments that have discretion over what they charge. That's on page 160. So some of the fees that are in departments are dictated by the state. In a lot of cases for optional services that our residents want, we decide based on our actual cost what those fees are. So you will see some adjustments. You'll see some added fees in the road department that was recommended by the County Road Association of Michigan that all road agencies should adopt. Mostly, there are not any changes in most of the departments. So that's really the budget in a nutshell, and I would be happy to answer any questions. That it has not changed since we held the public hearing 2 weeks ago, and the budget has been available for the public and on our website for close to a month now. We have not received any comments that I know of.
Good. Could I have a motion to approve the Calhoun County fiscal year 2020 budget and appropriations as presented?
So moved. Support.
Have a motion support. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Smith.
A question. First off, actually, I just want to thank Kelly, your staff, everybody who was involved in crafting this. This is my first year on the budget committee. Got to see a little bit more of the work that gets done, and you guys do a fantastic job. I can't say it enough. Very detail-oriented, and there's tough decisions that are being made. We'd always like more money.
And more people.
Yep, but you're doing the absolute best I think we can do. I think that's possible. And I just wanted to say that out loud. Second, a question, and then one more thing. I just noticed in the GIS mapping and the capital improvement line, I was just curious, did any other municipalities end up not signing on to that? I know that was a cost-sharing
Yeah, I
possibility.
believe we have all of the local governmental units, and that's including the cities, including the city of Battle Creek, including the tribal government. I believe they're all going to participate in a level proportionate to their number of parcels.
Fantastic. Yeah. I'm glad to hear that. And then finally, it wouldn't be a budget addition if I didn't offer the following amendment. To strike the language in section 13 regarding commissioner pay and replace it with the language included as part of the adopted 2019 budget.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion, yes.
So move.
Support.
There's a motion and support. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Commissioner Frisbee?
No.
Commissioner King?
No.
Commissioner Miller?
No.
Commissioner Tompkins?
No.
Commissioner Betty?
No.
Commissioner Hatcher?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Motion fails. All right, we'll go back to the original motion of the approving the 2020 budget and appropriations as presented. Is there any other discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll. Oh, Commissioner Tompkins.
And I'll be very brief. I just will certainly echo Commissioner Smith's comments relative to kudos to everybody, considering the struggles that everybody was going to have forthcoming with the governor's line item vetoes and the potential balance there that was going to be left over. Great job to the Finance Committee, the Budget Committee, and to the administration, all the department heads for a great job. So I just wanted to express my gratitude and appreciation for all the work that you guys have done. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now you can take the roll.
Commissioner Betty?
Yes.
Commissioner Hatcher?
No.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Frisbee?
Yes.
Commissioner King?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Tompkins?
Yes.
6 yes, 1 no.
Motion carries. All right, citizens' times, the same rules apply during the first citizens' time. Please limit your time to 3 minutes and no negative personal comments. Would anyone like to address their commissioners? Anyone? Anyone? All right, we'll move along. Commissioner time. Commissioner Miller.
Monday night, we had our 55th annual Marshall Christmas Parade. Pretty packed house, pretty good weather, wasn't too cold, wasn't raining. A lot of fire trucks. The sheriff,
A lot of floats.
it was pretty full downtown.
Yeah, it was awesome. All right. Commissioner Smith.
I just want to take a moment to recognize or rather reflect on the 8 police officers over the past 3 weeks, I think now, in the state of Michigan that have been shot in the line of duty. I don't have anything specific to say in that regard, just it's a sobering reminder of the work they do every day, and I, for one, am thankful that when I call, somebody's going to show up.
Thank you. Commissioner King.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say that I think the worst news that I've heard in a long time was learning that Dr. Ditzler is retiring from Albion College. Even though I'm happy for him in his retirement and his reduced role, I mean, anybody that's, Gary, I know you know this, anybody that's ever been around Albion knows, I don't think there's ever been a person that has done for Albion what Dr. Ditzler has done. He's one of those guys that I can say, when I've been at the dinner table with him or I've been at an event with him or just talking to him, it's hard. It's hard because you're mesmerized. The guy is brilliant. And so I have faith that Albion College will find somebody great to try to continue on what Dr. Ditzler has done, and I look forward to continuing to see the improvement there in Albion.
That is a guy that really put his actions, his words into action. He just didn't say it; he did it.
He's had a profound impact on that.
He really has.
He's transformed.
Been great to see.
He's like a visionary, like Bill Gates is a visionary.
Yeah, right. No question.
I mean, just different.
Yep, no question.
Jake, I wanted to follow up on your comments and have our officer, Jeff Johnson from Battle Creek Police Department, in your thoughts. He's still struggling to recover. It's going to be a long road for him. His fiance is an employee of mine, so it impacts life care too. So keep those folks in your thoughts. And then there were 3 officers in Kalamazoo within that 8 that were shot in the following days. Talked to Sheriff Fuller yesterday at an event. He said he expects full recovery for everybody there too. But you don't walk away from those events going, hey, everything's grand, I'm just going back to work tomorrow. It will profoundly impact your life forever. So just keep those folks in your thoughts and prayers. All right, we'll move on to, can I have a motion to approve claims payable for November 14th, 2019 through November 27th, 2019 in the amount of $3,195,884.67 as presented.
So moved.
Support.
Have a motion support. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Yes.
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 Motion carries. Are there any announcements?
Yes.
7th District time.
Actually, certainly, if you like parades, which this week has been the week of the parade, certainly Marshall on Monday. Tonight ran over here from Homer, actually. Homer had its parade. Sheriff Saxon was there, had a great time. Santa has been around. He made his appearance. That's right, Prosecutor Gilbert was there. I should know, you follow me everywhere, right? Exactly. Or you, whichever, exactly, right? Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, that's true. You did have candy. That's right. You did have candy. But it was a great time there. And to round out the week, Albion will be having its Albion Aglow Parade tomorrow night at 6 p.m. So if you want to take the opportunity and you love parades, there's yet one to certainly end the week. So we'll take an opportunity to do so. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Commissioner Hatcher.
Yes, well, I guess Santa is really, really busy because I did want to also announce that the Battle Creek chapter of the Delta Sigma Theta sorority will be also honoring Santa for lunch. So you can bring the kiddies by and have lunch. That's going to be at Second Missionary Baptist Church, and that is Saturday, December 7th, and it's from 11:30 to 1 p.m. And I kind of happen to know Santa, it's going to, right.
Calhoun County has its own Santa as well.
So
Richfield.
Encourage everybody
The 911.
to go out there and ask Santa, tell them what you want, because I heard this Santa this year is giving everybody everything that you ask for.
All right.
Yeah.
I want to go to lunch with your Santa.
Yeah.
There we go.
Commissioner King.
Thank you. this could have been commissioner comments, but I also would like to say that, and I don't really think this matters what political party you're with. It never gets old seeing Air Force One or Air Force Two land. I was honored to be able to be on the tarmac when Air Force Two landed yesterday. It was great. Our vice president came to town, and it's the second time I've got to do that, and it doesn't get old. And if you didn't see the news, President Trump is coming to Battle Creek on the 18th. So it's there's something with that. And like I said, it doesn't really matter what political party you're with or not. You know, when the president comes to town, he's still the president.
That's right.
So, yep. And we'll extend that opportunity to, if made available to us, to every one of these commissioners to be able to do that. And any elected official we can tag in there, we'll get you in as well.
Welcome
So,
him, Calvin.
it should be an exciting time. It's not often a president stops by and says hello. So we should take advantage of that, as Derek said. All right. Anything else from anybody? If not, we stand adjourned. Thank you.